All right, so the purpose of this video is to illustrate how to train a brand new model from scratch. First thing we want to do is we want to load a chart. And for this particular example, I'm going to be creating a model based off based off trading the NQ. We will be starting with a 500 tick chart. So we're going to set the type is the type is tick, and the value at 500. I'm going to import, let's say 15 days of data, and I'm going to use the default trading hours for the of this instrument. I'm going to set the end date, since this is early morning, I'm just going to set the end date for the 13th and leave that as normal. So we're going to load this information. Let's go ahead and enable chart trader. Next thing we want to do is add our indicators. So the first this is going to be a very basic model. So we're going to add the analytical chart plus and its defaults. And we're also going to add the ATI app. And we're going to take the defaults. Next we want to, let's do this. Let's start. We're going to do a new model. So we're going to go here to Polarity Models. And I'm just going to name this model NQ video example, and the symbol name is going to be not ES, NQ. Add that model, and so we're just going to mainly focus on this one. I'm going to close this. Next thing we want to do is, so we've added the indicators, now we want to add the strategy. So first thing we want to do is click on Polarity strategy, and what we want to do is make some changes. So we're going to go from top to bottom. First thing we want to do is, actually, in order to make this a lot easier, I'm going to load a previous created strategy, and you can copy the data that I placed here. All right, so the first things first, minimum imbalance volume. Right now I have that set to 25. This doesn't really matter initially, I don't believe, because we're going to change these numbers after we import the data and clean it, so we can get an idea of what these minimums and maximums will be. But for the start, I have 25. These minimum imbalance volume and these two values here, they're pretty much always going to be the same. Similarly, the minimum imbalance ratio, these two, both have set those for 0.1. Set the maximum is 250. The minimum and maximum imbalance ratio is 5. Adversary detection is 2. Adversary detection here is 2. Maximum is 10. I'm using the hyperscalp strategy that came with the template that Connor published. I'm using diagonal mode. I'm using 1 minimum stacked imbalance, and I'm doing tick stacking of 4. Let's see, everything else should be like the defaults, but if you don't have it, I have 10 set for here. Support and resistance, I have both for 1. Machine learning is enabled. My active model is the new video one that I created. And I am running at an 85% for this example, but you can change it anywhere from between 65 to 85% target win rate. I have training turned on. My sampling interval is 200. My trade size my sampling interval is 20. My trade size window is 200. And here are the ATM strategies for this particular set of training. Margin around imbalance is set for 2.7, and margin around imbalance volume is set for 87. Everything else is pretty much standard, and I'm going to enable this. But before I enable this, let's look at a few things. inside of your resources directory. These are old models that I created, so let's do this. Let's delete everything here so that everything starts fresh. And I'm going to enable this, hit apply, hit OK. Also, while we're doing this, we want to make sure that the PATI app has been started, so you can start the PATI app around the same time. And in the background, we can watch the logs as this strategy is being enabled. So it may take a few seconds before the model starts up to be trained. You can see something's happening in the background because now we have these CSVs being created. You can see this number has, this is the CSV, this is the data that has been pulled in. And so now that we have this data pulled in, the next thing we want to do is start to train the model or trim the file. So what we want to do is use the app that's inside of, we want to use the app that's inside of the, that was shared inside the group. Sorry, you guys. The first thing I like to do is open this up. Let's see, edit, open. And you'll see like this is all the raw data. So what you can do, you can copy this information into a spreadsheet, or you can load it inside of the CSV filter app, and it'll do the filtering for you. But before I use this particular app, what I like to do is use the original one. And in the original app, it only filtered on win rate. So let me see if I can find that app. Sorry, I'm maybe a little bit everywhere. Yeah, so this is the original filter app. Let's start it up. All right, we're going to load the CSV file. This is one that's just been created. I'm going to open it. So right now, let's filter on, say, 75%. Load, filter data. So now now it creates a filtered 75% file. If we go back to the PATI resources directory, you can see that now we have this filtered. We have two files. We have the original and we have the filtered file. What I like to do next is I like to rename these just in case something happens. So I would like rename it to _original. And this will now be my filtered app, or the filter is now the CSV file. Or the original file that's going to be uploaded when I hit train. But before I train it, one thing we also noticed that we brought up in the group, we also want to get the imbalanced ranges filtered out as well. And so in order to do that, we need to figure out what is the minimum and what is the maximum imbalance ratio range, imbalance volume range, and adversarial detection range. So before we do that, you can take, what I like to do is take this file. So now we're working with a filtered file, and go over to either Excel or Sheets and upload that file. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over here to File, Import, Upload, Browse. We're going to upload the one that has just been filtered. import it. And we're doing this mainly just to get the ranges. So now we're going to open that. And so we have a row for imbalance ratio, imbalance volume, imbalance ratio, and adversarial detection. And now we want to take the lower, we want to take everything that's in the between the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile. And so in order to do that, we have to run a quick formula. And what I like to do is just add some rows here. Don't worry, we're just doing this to get information. We're not uploading this back into Patty per se. We're just grabbing the data. Let's delete this column. All right, so starting with imbalance volume, what we want to do is, let me just make sure, because sometimes I get this formula wrong. We're going to do equals percentile and pick this line. And so we want the bottom 25th, so we like 25% and close it. And so that gives us the value of 5. So the bottom 25% for imbalance volume will be 5. And so now we want anything between 25% and 75%. So what we're going to do is do the same equation and put 75. And so for this particular, so we ended up getting 19. So for imbalance volume, the lower range will be 5, the upper range will be 19. So we do the same thing for imbalance ratio. We do equals percentile, select the entire row, comma, 25%, close. So the bottom 25% is 13. I'm just going to copy this down. I'm going to make this 75. So for the bottom, we're going to say 75. And so now for imbalance ratio, the minimum is going to be 0.13. The maximum is going to be 0.44. So let's do adversarial detection equals percentile. Just like this, 25%. So the bottom is going to be, the minimum is going to be 8, and the maximum is going to be 28. So these are the numbers that we have. So what we'll do next is go to the CSV filter app and put these values in. So what we have, what do we say for volume? We have 5 for minimum, we have 19 for max. For minimum, we have 13, so that's good, works out, and 44 for max. And so adversarial detection, we have 8, and we have 28. We're going to load the CSV. We're going to load the original one that was filtered. And hit filter. Now let's go back and look at the new filtered app, and you can see that it's actually smaller. So it's only 218 kilobytes. So what we're going to do, I can get rid of this one, rename the filtered one to the CSV. And now we have filtered all the data and it's ready for upload. So now we can come back to NinjaTrader and hit train the model. Look at the Patty app, and you can see it will start training. After this model is trained, there will be a what do you call it? A CBM file that's created. and that will be our model. So this part may take a second. You can fast forward during this part because I don't think anything is going to happen until it's finished training. One thing to notice is the value of this is relatively pretty small, so this may not be the best model. You may have to go back and grab more data, but the purpose of this video is to show you the process. All right, so now that this is complete, you can see that we have an R2 of 0.07 and an RMSE of 3.775. So from our understanding, I don't think those numbers actually, those probably not a good model per se, but again, I just wanted to show you guys the process. So now that this model has been trained, we're going to close this out and we're going to disable the model. Now, one of the things that we noticed, we talked about in our group, was that one of the members gave us a master training file. And so the next step is to import that master training file on top of everything that we trained with this model. So in order to do that, first we need to disable the model. And let me see if let me find the master training file. Yes, the master training file from June 5th with the 85% win rate. We want to import this on top of the current model. And so in order to do that, first thing I want to do is copy this into our ATI folder. Paste that here. See that file is there. All right, next. Now that we've disabled the strategy, now we have to put it into a mode that we would use in order to, so basically, let me explain. So in order to import extra data, we have to do it from we have to import the data using the incremental machine learning training file. And so what we figured out is that we can trick Polarity to import data that hasn't been fully gotten from incremental training. So if somebody has a training file that we would like to use, we can upload that via the incremental training file. So let me just show you. So we're at the point where we disabled the model. Now we need to go to the training mode area. We need to uncheck this, uncheck overwrite existing training. And now we need to enable machine learning, which is already enabled, optimize our training, and use incremental learning. And once this is done, we can come down and hit apply. Or we can come down and hit enable and apply. But before we do that, I just want you to note that currently there is no incremental learning file here. But once we enable the training, once we enable this file, watch what happens. Hit OK. Come back to resources. And in a few seconds, there is an incremental learning file that is created. And so now what we want to do is we want to take this file, we want to take everything in the CSV and copy it. And open this file, incremental learning file, edit, and paste everything that was in the original file. Hit save. And now we have an incremental learning file that has been populated with everything from the master file. So now what do we want to do? We want to disable the strategy. This basically what we're doing, we're disabling it. We're disabling it right now because we want to ingest this file back into Polarity. But in order to do that, we have to originally enable the file to get the machine learning file to show up. And now we're disabling it as though it basically simulates us shutting down the model at the end of the day. And after we disable it, hit OK. And then we come back. We're going to re-enable the file, or re-enable the strategy. And once that strategy is re-enabled rather, it will ingest the original machine learning file. So we're going to look here. We see that machine learning file right now is at 780 kilobytes. Once I hit apply, enable it, it's going to ingest that learning file. And there you go. And now that that learning file has been ingested, we now have the ability we can save this model off now, because this model now contains the original data that was ingested, that was created, plus the master machine learning training file from one of the members in our group. I hope this answers any questions that you guys have. And you can ping me on the side or ping me within the group or anything like that. Sorry the video was a little drawn out, but I wanted to make sure I covered everything. Thanks. Oh, one thing to note before I close out the video. This model now is ready for training. Not training, but so now that we have this model, what we can do is come back up here and disable it. Disable the model, save it off. And then when we re-enable it next time, it's ready for live training, for live data. And so what you would typically do at this point, we would apply, okay, the model has been saved. Like we'll come here, we can save off this file, or you can save the entire PADI resources directory. And what this does is basically saves this file, or saves the model that you've created. Then next, what we want to do is, say for a normal day, we can use this model, collect some incremental learning on the day that you want to trade, and whether that's a few hours in the morning, a few hours in the afternoon, or whenever you decide you want to trade, you can use this time, import that incremental learning file by stopping and restarting the model after you've gathered data for that morning before trading, and then you can set this model live. So I just wanted to mention that. Hopefully you guys understand that.